Though the positives usually outweigh the negatives in the long run when it comes to being part of this much-loved Star Wars world, that didn't stop the following actors from wishing certain scenes didn't play out the way they ultimately did, either on the day of shooting or on the big screen later down the road. I'm Gareth from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 Star Wars scenes actors hated shooting. Number 10. Mark Hamill didn't want to cut a Wampa's arm off. The Empire Strikes Back. In terms of an actor having a supreme understanding of who their character actually is, and what they would genuinely do in just about any given situation, Mark Hamill likely ranks as one of the more outspoken and understandably opinionated thespians you're ever likely to meet. It's only natural for the actor to feel a particularly strong connection with the iconic face of Luke Skywalker, and this has led to a number of occurrences when Mark has gone out of his way to openly disagree with something Luke was made to do throughout the Star Wars films. Agreeing with those fans who felt his hacking off of a Wampa's arm at the start of The Empire Strikes Back was a little bit extreme, Hamill took to Twitter a few years back and noted how he was assured his lightsaber swing towards the camera would merely lead to the monster's fur being singed and ultimately scared off. He continued by revealing he was horrified to later see amputation and unnecessary cruelty, and Luke would never do this. Hamill clearly let his feelings be known on the day of shooting that he didn't want to be responsible for a piece of Wampa cruelty, but that didn't stop the filmmakers from going against his wishes in the end. Number 9. Adam Driver hated wearing his mask. The Force Awakens. Adam Driver quickly found a way to turn many ahead from the second Kylo Ren ominously swept onto the scene on Jakku, wearing his now unmistakable homage to his grandfather Darth Vader. But as Driver himself would note later down the road, rocking up to set wearing the undoubtedly awesome mask wasn't always all it was cracked up to be. When speaking to Conan O'Brien around the time of The Force Awakens release, the fallen Jedi actor would reveal that it was terrible. Jokingly continuing on, Driver would admit to this day, "I still don't know who is in the movie because I haven't seen it." He also felt somewhat of a kinship with the stormtroopers Ren is often seen ordering around the place, as those actors also found their vision limited for large portions of filming, with Driver even citing how in the original trilogy, you see the stormtroopers moving in uniform, but what you don't see is when one stormtrooper is just talking to a wall because he thinks it's a person. It's a tough life for those helmet heads, you know? Number 8. Anthony Daniels thought CGI C-3PO was awful. Attack of the Clones. Though the following entry doesn't involve an actor showing up on set and being a little bit annoyed about what they were being asked to do, it does still see one of the series' OGs absolutely burying scenes they were still technically a part of in the series, with hilariously hopeless droid C-3PO being thrust into a few more perilous situations over the course of the prequel trilogy. In particular, during Attack of the Clones, George Lucas felt that some of the things being asked of this mechanical being would have simply been too dangerous to practically have Anthony Daniels perform on the day. So the decision was ultimately made to have the original body within the droid suit sit on the sidelines and simply voice 3PO, and it was one that Daniels himself detested through and through. Speaking to Entertainment Weekly, Daniels would confess that CGI C-3PO wasn't very good. In fact, I'm going to say it was awful. Hard to argue with that, really. Number 7. Andy Serkis thought Snoke's death was cruel. The Last Jedi. The visual of Andy Serkis's formidable Supreme Leader Snoke suddenly being impaled by Luke Skywalker's blue lightsaber, thanks to Kylo Ren's unexpected change of heart, is still a little shocking to behold half a decade on. Yes, time is seriously flying, and fans weren't the only ones who were left reeling at the jaw-dropping fate ultimately sent the way of the sequel's apparent big bad, with Serkis himself admitting that he wasn't entirely on board with the way his motion capture antagonist was dispatched in The Last Jedi. In a conversation with Entertainment Weekly, the Lord of the Rings star would reveal that he felt the ominous force was so cruelly disposed of so early on in his career. Supreme Leader Snoke, I've gotta say, I mean, come on. Adding more fuel to the fire when it comes to whether or not he was a little annoyed or miffed by his character's handling. When told that his death left a few unanswered questions, Serkis sharply replied, "I know, tell me about it." Number 6. Carrie Fisher detested her gold bikini. Return of the Jedi. Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia being kitted out in a golden bikini alongside the despicable slug that was Jabba the Hutt in the opening stages of Return of the Jedi may act as one of the most famous shots in the history of this galaxy far, far away. But that still didn't change the fact that the actor herself understandably wasn't the biggest fan of the whole situation. Admitting that wearing the highly revealing outfit made her feel very nervous, Fisher told NPR's Fresh Air that no creases were allowed, so I had to sit very, very rigid straight. Thankfully, the whole ordeal was somewhat redeemed by the fact that Fisher was gifted the moment of killing off her captor in the end. As the Leia superstar would add, "I really relished that because I hated wearing that outfit, and sitting there rigid straight and I couldn't wait to kill him." It may not have been the most enjoyable experience and something she wasn't in any rush to do again, but at least this iconic princess got her own back, and as she'd later admit to The Guardian, the only reason to go into acting is if you can kill a giant monster. Hear, hear. Number 5, Daisy Ridley had an awful first day, The Force Awakens. The first day on just about any job you'll find on this spinning ball of chaos can often be a rather daunting proposition. But those typical stresses and fears are no doubt dialed up to 1,000 when said first day just so happens to be going down on the set of the first live-action Star Wars feature in a decade. That was precisely the situation Daisy Ridley found herself in when the moment came to fire up the intergalactic hyperdrive that was the sequel trilogy of films with J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens, with the Rey actor herself classing the entire filming experience on those initial days in the Star Wars saddle as horrid. When talking to Happy Sad Confused host Josh Horowitz about filming those first few scenes on the set of The Force Awakens, Ridley would state, "It was really scary. I felt just sick and I didn't really know anyone yet, and it takes me a really long time to settle down with people." And in another interview with Glamour magazine, Ridley recalled Abrams calling her acting wooden on her first day, telling the mag, "I thought I was gonna cry, I couldn't breathe." Shame on you, JJ. Number 4, Liam Neeson found acting with tennis balls exhausting, The Phantom Menace. Though Liam Neeson isn't one to throw his time in the galaxy far, far away into the category of projects he deeply regrets by any means, the Academy Award-nominated icon has still been open enough to admit that not every aspect of shooting his part in the first Star Wars prequel was a breeze. Despite seeing the idea of acting opposite tennis balls that would ultimately go on to be little fuzzy furry creatures and stuff as an interesting exercise acting-wise, the Qui-Gon Jinn legend would tell Entertainment Tonight that his time on The Phantom Menace was the last when it came to working in the genre. Simply put, Neeson found the process of acting on this type of set and in these scenarios quite exhausting. So those angling to see the wise Jedi return in a live-action capacity at some point down the road may just have to settle for Neeson's still entirely captivating vocal work as Obi-Wan's master on the Clone Wars animated series for now. Number 3, Alec Guinness thinks shooting for Tatooine is hot and boring, A New Hope. From one legendary Jedi Master to another now, and to the time an acting titan simply could not hide his resentment towards the working conditions he found himself in during George Lucas's first trip into this bold new world. On top of absolutely detesting some of the terrible dialogue his character of Ben Kenobi was forced to let loose onto audiences throughout the shoot, stating that none of it makes my character clear or even bearable, Alec Guinness would take aim at the all-round working atmosphere conjured up by Lucas and the gang on the set of A New Hope. As the Oscar-nominated thespian would confess later down the road, filming for episode 4 was tedious to a degree, hot, boring, and indecisive. Despite all this though, the project classed as fairy tale rubbish by the iconic face would still land in multiple millions in the bank and an aforementioned Academy Awards nod. So at least it wasn't all bad, eh? Number 2, Terence Stamp travelled halfway around the world to act to paper, The Phantom Menace. Another prequel actor who wasn't best pleased with the idea of swapping out a genuine actor for an inanimate object takes up a spot on this list, as Terence Stamp's odd quest to look Natalie Portman in the eye ultimately went up in flames thanks to George Lucas's bold new vision. When recalling his time working on The Phantom Menace as Chancellor Valorum, Stamp told Empire magazine that he didn't rate Lucas that much as a director, really. Perhaps this opinion was largely the result of Stamp being led to believe he was due to act opposite Portman at one point in the day, only for Lucas to spring an unexpected twist on him late on. After flying all the way from Australia to shoot with the Leon the Professional star, Stamp wandered onto a suspiciously Portman-less set. The question of where's Natalie was then answered with a "that's Natalie" and a point to a piece of paper on the wall. Needless to say, Stamp found everything that followed just boring. Number 1, Mark Hamill had to think of Luke as a different character, The Last Jedi. Starting and concluding with an actor forever synonymous with this galaxy far, far away, and with a return that had just about everyone on planet Earth simply champing at the bit to see what it would entail. Mark Hamill himself could be included in that crowd too. That was until the star realized what direction Luke Skywalker would be taking him for Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. In particular, a line the star would eventually utter in the 8th episode had Hamill thoroughly scratching his head. That being the statement of "it's time for the Jedi to end." Revealing in an interview with censor Cine, HAMLL just couldn't get his head around the idea of Luke wanting to give up on his order, saying, "Jedis don't give up." I mean, even if he had a problem, he would maybe take a year to try and regroup, but if he had made a mistake, he would try and right that wrong. So right there, we had a fundamental difference. But it's not my story anymore. The actor would then go on to admit that he had to look at Luke as almost a different character this time around, and not my Luke anymore. But the star still put in a hell of a shift in what would prove to be one of his last live-action hurrahs as the iconic Jedi. And that's our list. Know of any other Star Wars scenes actors hated shooting? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and go and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you're into this kind of thing, head on over to whatculture.com and find some more Star Wars articles just like the video you're watching is based on right now. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. As always, may the Force be with you, and I hope I see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!